The Lamont Mansion, otherwise known as Summerwind, is considered one of the most haunted places in the United States. Originally owned by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Robert Lamont, the stories date back to when it was purchased in 1916. Legend has it, a ghost appeared by the basement door in front of Mr. Lamont and his wife. In a panic, Mr. Lamont quickly shot 2 rounds from his pistol, both going straight through the entity and into the basement door, which quickly slammed shut. That night, Mr. and Mrs. Lamont fled, leaving all their belongings behind, never to return to the mansion. After decades of being abandoned, the mansion eventually found its next victims, the Hinshaw family. During the summer of 1969, Ginger and Arnold Hinshaw move into the house with their 4 kids, one of the children already getting a bad feeling about the mansion. One day, the family comes across an old peace pipe wrapped up carefully and hidden in a closet. Peace pipes are often used by Native American tribes to seal a peace treaty. After finding the pipe, Ginger finds herself deeply obsessed with remodeling the building to its original state, every little inch of it. Meanwhile, Arnold becomes withdrawn and has a massive personality change, sleeping all day and then staying up all night while playing eerie music on the family's organ. Along with this, Arnold becomes extremely angry over the smallest of things and ends up killing the family's pet raccoon when it manages to escape outside. The family begins to feel like they are being followed and watched 24/7. Chairs move unexplainably, and the window in the master bedroom is nailed shut as it mysteriously keeps reopening. While Ginger is alone, a deep male voice calls out her name and leads her upstairs. Once there, the voice calls out her name once again before a ghost appears in front of her. Ginger begins to take things more seriously when one day her guests flee the mansion screaming, never to return due to a ghost appearing in front of them. Ginger begins sleeping outside in the woods, terrified of being in her own house, and eventually attempts suicide. Along with this, Arnold has a nervous breakdown and loses the family business. 6 months after moving in, Ginger and the kids move out. Arnold leaves the next day and is never heard from again. After picking Ginger up, her father Raymond quickly falls in love with the house. With the help of Ginger's brother Ray, they begin remodeling. One day, while Ray was working in the house alone, he heard 2 gunshots. He fled into the kitchen and could see smoke in the air and smell gunpowder. It was at this time Ray found the 2 bullet holes in the basement door, and a ghost appeared behind him, causing Ray to flee the house. No one in the family knew the story of the Lamonts, and thanks to Ginger's studies in the paranormal, she attempted to put Ray in a hallucination. During the hallucination, Ray shook violently, and a very angry voice called out, "I had 7 children, and I despise them," before yelling the line, "You are weak, I am strong," repeatedly. Raymond still does not believe his children, so he too is put into a hallucination. During this, Raymond quickly finds himself in the basement of the mansion. The vision shows him finding a box hidden in the brick wall of the basement. In the box is a land grant from 1777 belonging to explorer Jonathan Carver. While both men talked under the hallucination, once it was broken, they had no memory of their experiences. It is believed that explorer Jonathan Carver created a peace treaty between two native tribes at war, and in return he was gifted the land he built Summerwind on. Was the peace pipe that was found from that treaty all that time ago? The Hinshaw family visited the mansion one last time to see if they could find the deed. While there was an empty space hidden in the brick wall, exactly where Raymond's vision had shown, no box or deed was ever found in the house. In 1980, the mansion became famous as Life magazine named it one of 9 of the most haunted houses in the United States. It would later be shown on an episode of The Haunting in 2005. In 1985, the town officials for Land O'Lakes petitioned for permission to burn the building. Town chairman Ronald Ramash went on record at the time to say they were tired of repeated vandalism and a series of noisy weekend parties from teenagers. He stated, "If we don't get it done this winter, I don't think we'll do it. We're worried about a Save the Mansion movement when word gets out." Their petition was in fact struck down, and nearly all records of this idea have been erased. In 1988, the mansion was struck by lightning twice and completely burned down. No documentation from the fire that night exists. So we're going to go ahead and actually call one of the head investigators that has worked with Summerwind.
Hello?
Hey, this is Kobe with Kobe's Travels.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I just want to thank you for agreeing to this interview. I'm really excited to hear about your experiences and be able to share some of your knowledge on Summerwind.
Not a problem at all. Happy to be here.
Okay, so I got a couple questions here. I wrote them down. I didn't want to forget anything. I heard ever since Summerwind was built, people have always wanted some kind of bed and breakfast there. Do you know if that's still the plans after it's rebuilt?
Well, actually, the team is no longer in place to rebuild Summerwind. I am personally actually looking at buying the property and rebuilding it myself. And I would like to turn it into some kind of museum and lodge.
So it's basically like Little Bohemia Lodge then?
Yeah, exactly like Little Bohemia. Basically have a lodge where people can come and stay and eat, but also have half of it into a museum with some of the paranormal evidence and the history of the Summerwind Mansion.
Okay, so with all the ghostly encounters and the lightning strikes, do you believe that Summerwind is nothing but bad luck or energy?
Well, you actually know what happened to Summerwind, don't you? It wasn't hit by lightning. It was deliberately set on fire. I've actually had an eyewitness come forward who was a neighbor to Summerwind back then, and they told me how the fire department and the town board secretly came and set the mansion on fire. And they even came up to the neighbor and told them, you know, this mansion got struck by lightning twice. So it was deliberately set on fire. It was not actually struck by lightning, as many believe.
So, kind of continuing off of that question with bad luck then, there's an old legend that taking a brick from the building is actually a curse. I personally know someone whose vehicle completely died on them after taking a brick. Do you believe in this legend, and what stories have you heard about this?
I absolutely believe in the legend and curse of taking the bricks. I too have heard of several people taking bricks and their vehicles breaking down, but I've also led investigations, and I have had a girl take a brick and a week later she gets in a car accident and broke both of her legs. I also had another person who was taking a brick and didn't even leave the property yet, and his vehicle just burst into flames. So yes, I absolutely believe in the curse, and it's more than just bricks. It's any belonging that the spirits are connected to with the house.
Okay, so some people think that once it burned down, it was no longer haunted. What do you believe? And I know you've done a couple different investigations there. So have you found any evidence to suggest that it is indeed still haunted?
Summerwind is absolutely still haunted. The big thing is there is a difference between people who go there without the proper equipment, and then there's people who do bring paranormal equipment. If you just go there and wander around in the middle of the woods for an hour expecting to hear all these things or see all these things, you're probably not going to experience anything. But if you have the proper equipment and you spend a lot of time there, we've actually recorded several voices, and we've actually seen a woman in white, which outside of the male figure, not many people know that is a common ghostly phenomenon that dates back to the very beginning of this house as well. Everyone always saw this woman in white, and we too have seen her during our investigation. So, it's known as one of the most haunted places in the United States, and there just truly is some remarkable stories here all around. Well, I gotta go, but thank you for allowing me to do this interview. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach back out.
Okay, well, thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
So, that was a little awkward doing an over-the-phone interview, but I think that was actually a really great interview. I actually never heard of them burning down the mansion, but I could definitely see that as a possibility. It just goes to show there is a lot of remarkable stories with the haunting of Summerwind.